Good morning. I hope everything is okay with you and taking some time off between today and next Sunday. So I'm recording this Bible study for today, and I hope that we can understand the reading that we have for this week, and not only that we can discuss the ideas in a deeply way. You will see some pause moments that I'm going to post on the screen. And when you see pause, please press pause on this video and discuss the questions. I'm also providing you with a file that you can distribute with the text and the questions. So the reading for this week, and I'm concentrating in Galatians chapter 6, the first verses. Galatians chapter 6, the first verses says, "My friends, if anyone is detected in a transgression, you who have received the Spirit should restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. Take care that you yourselves are not tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. For if those who are nothing think they are something, they deceive themselves. All must test their own work. Then that work, rather than their neighbor's work, will become a cause for pride. For all must carry their own loads." Well, let's go to our red square. And in our red square, I want you to go back to the verse 4. And verse 4. And the verse 4 says, "All must test their own work. Then that work," meaning your own work, "rather than your neighbor's work, would become a cause for pride." Now, red square, and remember, I'm going to put a pause right here, and I want you to deeply discuss the questions. The questions are like this. Analyze the context in which this expression is said. Again, this expression itself says, and I'm going to now basically translate it to our colloquial language, that you should be proud of your work, but you should be proud of your work only because of your work, not because of any other's work. Why? So be aware of the context on verses 1 and 2. Verses 1 and 2 says, "My friends, if anyone is detected in a transgression," so someone else is not doing right, "you who have received the Spirit should restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness." Verse 2, "Bear one another's burdens." In other words, that second person, that neighbor, is not doing well. That neighbor is not doing right. That neighbor is doing transgression. Now, in that context, what does it mean then? Analyze your work, and then your work should be the source of your pride. No, looking at your work compared with your neighbor's work. So that is the question for the red square. Since my neighbor's work should be a cause for pride, it says over here, in which way this pride mentioned here is not a healthy pride. Think deeply. Press pause in the video and discuss. I hope that when you discussed for a few moments right there, you actually realized that it is not a good idea to compare our work with others, especially if we are gonna feel like that. You remember that person he was keeping the law. He was very obedient. He was very holy according to the ideas of the moment. Yes, he was marvelous. But then there was this sinner by his side, and now this person, and this is one of the stories of Jesus, all right, and this person actually is praising God. Oh God, thank you, because I am not like this guy. So that is the idea. He is proud of his work, but he's proud of his work because he feels superior to the other one who is, according to him, a sinner. So in that context, again, and I'm gonna ask you to press to pause the video again. In that context, in which ways sometimes we encourage our even our kids, even our children, for example, comparing grades with other students. I mean, you have A's and they have C's, or your neighbor is failing the class and you look at you are awesome. So in which way is not a healthy pride? Because yes, you should be proud, we should be proud of our own effort, of our own work. It is normal, okay? But in which way that is not healthy when you feel so superior to others because they are failing where you are shining? Press pause again and let's repeat the question. Is it really a good idea to compare our work, achievements, and successes with others? And I want to include, before you press pause, one other idea. What if it is the other way around? What if it is the other person who feels superior to you because you are failing and he or she is having the A's and the B's in the class? Is it a good idea that you compare yourself, your worth, your dignity, your value because of others' successes? Like, for example, he or she has more money than I have in the bank, or he or she is more experienced in this or that, or he or she, when they were 25, they already have bought the house, and I haven't even bought an apartment, and I'm 64. So then you feel all inferior because of that comparison. So look it up one way and the other way. Press pause on the video and discuss. Remember, we are in the red square. All right. I hope that after this pause, you really discussed, okay, and you took some time to take some time in every discussion, and do not feel bad to interrupt me. I'm just a video. So you can press pause anytime, even if I don't tell you to press pause. You can press pause for a moment and discuss more things. All right, you're welcome to it, and press and take some time in discussing these ideas. Now, the context in which Galatians 6 start, in my opinion, is the always present struggle with our neighbor's situation. When we say neighbors, it could be a co-student, a co-worker, a boss, a real neighbor in our neighborhood, a church member, a partner, a family member. And sometimes we tend to compare transgressions per transgressions, let's say. One of the things that we can extract from these verses, and I'm going to read again, Galatians 6, 1 and 2. My friends, if anyone is detected in a transgression, because we are so quick on doing that, right? You who have received the Spirit should restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. And the situation here is that many times over, yes, we are very quick in detecting others' transgressions. The question is, are we so quick also in restoring with gentleness? Most importantly, are we so quick in trying to cover for privacy those transgressions where only God, that person, and you yourself who is trying to help are the ones who really need to know, and it is just a need to know basis situation. So you don't go around spreading the news or the bad news of something that is going on with your co-worker, your family member, your church member that you know from many years. Is it really a good spirit, the spirit of God guiding when you are so quick in detect transgressions, but then you, instead of dedicating the time to restoring the person, you dedicate the time to spreading the word, which is not a good idea. Any ideas? Because and this is another question in which I want you to just pause the video and discuss a bit more. Verse 1 says, take care, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. Some people are so proud of that tough love. And yes, I understand that sometimes we need tough love. Sometimes someone needs tough love. The question is how tough it should be, that love. The call from the Spirit in this verse in Galatians 6 is a spirit of gentleness. Pause the video and discuss a bit more how, as Christians, as family members, as co-workers, we should address the situation when someone is detected in a transgression. How are we calling to address the situation? Are we called to have tough love with them sometimes if it is a repetitive action? Are we called at the same time to have a balance? How to restore them? Because sometimes we think that restoring a person is just covering the defect, covering the transgression, and moving on, keep moving. But sometimes if something is, if a wound is infected, you cannot patch it up and keep moving. You need to open it up, you need to clean, it's gonna hurt. That's my point. I remember once I got it. I was a child. I was a little child, and we were running around in the fields. Over there in Cuba, I got a couple of friends. They lived in the countryside, and I lived in the city. But my grandma, she used to live in that area, in the countryside, and they were animals, and they were cows, and bulls and horses and stuff. And one day we decided to visit grandma, and we went there, and my friends were there, some of them cousins, and others just neighbors, friends. And we went to the country, we went to the farm outside, the area of the houses, and we were running around, and one of them had I don't know if you realize what is this. Well, farmers in Cuba, they use like a long stick with a sharp point, and that is used to gently, because I don't think they hurt them, but still gently guide the cattle, around. Well, some of them was was running with one of those sticks, and that is not a good idea. And we were just small kids, and we were running, and accidentally, he was running after me. He was chasing after me, and I suddenly stopped, and he didn't have the time to stop as quickly as I did, and it was like a long nail like this, and it was stuck on my knee, on the back. It hurt very, very much. Well, it bled a bit. Being little kids, I assume I was 8, 9, 10 years old, no more than that. Being little kids, we just kept playing. Honestly, it bled a bit, and still we kept running around. And probably some of you identify with that experience. And when I got home, I mean, when we get back to the house, my grandma's house, my grandma realized that I was like limping a bit, and she realized that something was not right. So they took me to the clinic. I gave you all this story because of this point. In the clinic there was this nurse, and the nurse was very young, and probably she took pity on me. I was, believe it or not, I was skinny, and she was just taking care of that wound. And I was like, it hurts, it hurts. And so she actually didn't press too much. She just put a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of something there, and she just covered the wound, and that's it. I was happy because it didn't hurt that much. Well, I was happy for a couple of days, but after the third day, my fever went up, and I couldn't even walk, and it was bad. It got infected. So that is the question. How do you treat your neighbor's transgressions when you think it's leading them to total destruction? How gentle, like that nurse, she was so gentle with me that my wound did not heal. So how gentle should it be for you to actually try to help? Pause and discuss. Well, after this pause, let me tell you the second part of the story. Because, yes, it has a second part. We went to church, and in our church there was this lady. She was a big, large lady, and she was a nurse. And she, they asked her, do you think this is going to get better? I don't think it's going to get better. We're going to go to the doctor. And she was like, bring her to my clinic. In Cuba, there is no private property. It was not her clinic. It was the clinic where she worked. So, and that afternoon, I remembered, I think it was that afternoon, or something like that, or the next day in the morning. I mean, I don't remember too well. We went to her clinic, and she uncovered the thing. She had given my mom some instructions in what to do before going to the clinic and stuff. So I went to the clinic. It was still infected. And she said, okay, the first thing, you need to see the doctor. You are going to see the doctor. The doctor will prescribe some things, and the doctor will send you to me. I'm sure of that. So it's effectively, the doctor saw me and sent me to her. Oh my goodness, that was not gentleness. She said, you need to be brave now. It's going to hurt, but I promise you, I remember that very clearly. She said, I promise you it's gonna hurt only once. Guys, it was bad. She opened the gun. She really opened that thing, and she cleaned up everything. She put everything in there. It hurt, but it healed. It healed. And she was right. It hurt only once. So I hope you discussed those ideas on, if anyone, and I'm going to go back again to verse 1, if anyone is detected in transgression, you who have received the Spirit should restore such a person in a spirit of gentleness. Well, let's go now to our yellow square. And the yellow square, I'm going to concentrate the yellow square in a combination of that situation of comparing us with others, with the second part. And the second part is very important too. Verses 7 and 8, they say, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For you reap whatever you sow. If you sow to your own flesh, you will reap corruption from the flesh. But if you sow to the Spirit, you will reap eternal life from the Spirit. So let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap a harvest time if we do not give up. What does it mean? In the context, because we need to situate all of this in the context of Galatians 6, what could you deduct of this expression? What does it mean? You reap whatever you sow. But go to the context, all right? We're not talking here about having cancer because you smoked. No. We're not talking here about being bankrupt because you spent your money unwisely. No. It's not. That is not the context. In the context of taking care of your neighbor, of being gentle, but at the same time having the balance of treating your neighbor's transgression with discretion, with privacy, and with love. In that context, in which you don't compare yourself with others because of your lack of pride, and you need to reinforce your value and your dignity and your self-worth by comparing with others. No. All right. In that context, because that is the context in which this expression is mentioned, in that context, what does it mean? You reap whatever you sow. And compare all of this with Matthew 7, 1 and 2. Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. And it says, do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged. And the measure you give will be the measure you get. So now pause the video again and discuss in the yellow square. In that context, what does it mean that whatever you that you reap whatever you sow? All right. I hope that after the pause, you discuss the ways that sometimes things go around. All right. And sometimes in life, you are tough or you are not discreet, and then you are the one who needs to be ministered. No one is exempted of transgressions. So no one is exempted of needing that neighbor's intercession and neighbor's ministry. It seems that some Galatian people were in the task of, and that is the second idea that I want to introduce right here. They were weary in doing what was right. Now the question is why they were weary in doing what was right. And I say, well, that's a good thing, Pastor. That's a good thing to be weary in doing what is right. Well, it doesn't seem to be a good thing because Paul is not advising. He's advising against it. Let's read again. It says, so let us not grow weary in doing what is right. So that's what happens here. Why Paul is saying that we should not be weary in doing what is right. I thought that was a good thing, you know. And now Paul is saying, do not grow weary in doing what is right. Remember, everything is about context. And in this context, sometimes life becomes a competition. So he has a car, I should have a car. He bought a house, I should buy a house. He has 2 ministries in church, I should have 3 ministries in church. He is a deacon, I should be a deacon too. He's going to become a pastor, or she's going to become a pastor, I should become a pastor too. That is the context. And the context also is talking about harvest time. So sometimes not every person is weary about doing right things because of the right thing that he or she wants to do, but because of the rewards. What Paul is advising against us is not because of the right thing itself. It's because of the context in which this right thing is being procured. So if you are growing weary in doing the right thing because you are thinking of the harvest time, we got a problem, because Christianity is not about reward. Christianity is about love and relationship. Reward comes when love and relationship comes into place. So if I am disconnected from God, I can do many good things because of rewards. You know how many millionaires donate a lot of money, not because of love, but because of avoiding tax. How many people have transferred their factories to China, not because they want to employ the less privileged Chinese people, but because they want to evade the responsibility of tax. And there's nothing wrong in doing business the way that you want to do business, so everything is better monetarily. But spiritually speaking, that is not a good thing. If you're doing things and you're growing weary doing things just because of the reward, just because of the harvest, we got a problem. Especially because when the reward does not come the way that you expect it to come, then since the motivation was not love, since the motivation was not as a follower of Jesus, that probably could be the end of it. I've got so many people across the time in church saying, "Pastor, I'm not going to keep doing this." Why? No one appreciates me. Well, the thing is that if Jesus had done everything because of appreciation, he would have given up a lot sooner. And he never gave up. So probably the expression was not right. Not sooner or later. He never gave up, And in this case, it's the same. You don't do things in church because of appreciation. Yeah, it's very good to be appreciated, but you do things in church because of love. So, again, let's read that verse again. Let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap a harvest time. In other words, just do your stuff. Just do your thing. Do it out of love. Reward will come. Whatever God wants us to have that reward, it will come at a time, but you're not concerned about it because the motivation is not reward. The motivation is love. So you can pause now this video again and you can discuss a little bit further, especially when it's regarding ministry in church. Pause the video. Okay, after this pause, let's go to the green square, and that is the last square. And basically it's like a conclusion. All right, verse 9. Let's read verse 9 again. And verse 9 says, "So let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap at harvest time if we do not give up." I already mentioned, when the motivation is not right, giving up is an option. When the motivation is not the right motivation, giving up is an option. When the motivation is the right motivation, giving up is not an option. For Jesus, giving up was not an option. For Martin Luther King Jr., giving up was not an option. You go to the final consequence if you need to, because the motivation is no reward. The motivation is no appreciation by many people or being followed. The motivation is love. It's a calling. It's something that's greater than yourself. So in this case, we need to be aware that we cannot fall in the trap of just doing things because of the reward. According to Paul, this kind of weariness to doing right is mostly a flesh and not a spirit thing, you know. And yes, because if you work, I mean, Paul called flesh the things that you do on an everyday basis, like for example, working, going to school, you know, your daily life, going to the grocery store, you know. So you let's say I'm gonna put this example. You go and you stop in the red stop in the light, and you see this homeless person is approaching you, and you got a couple of dollars here, and you can give the couple of dollars, and then you say, you know what, I'm gonna give him the couple of dollars. You down the window, you give him a couple of dollars, you pray with the person, just 2 words over there, or God bless you, something like that. You raise up, and now comes the question: what do you expect out of it? Do you expect that the next stop that you skip, the police will give you the break and you don't have the ticket because you gave $2 to the homeless? What do you expect? You expect that you're gonna pass the test that afternoon because God will reward you because you helped someone else in the morning? What happens when that doesn't happen? Are you gonna keep doing? Are you gonna keep giving $2 to the homeless? And you say, I'm not gonna give any more dollars to the homeless because that afternoon I failed the test and I thought that God would help me to pass the test because I was good in the morning. Be aware, guys. If we do the right things, we do them because of love, not because of rewards, not because we're expecting something in return. If we expect something in return, that's a flesh thing. Like when you go to work, you expect a salary at the end of the week, or at the end of the bi-weekly, or at the end of the month. You expect a salary. It is a give and return. That's it. According to Paul, that's a flesh thing. According to Paul, the spirit is different. When the motivation is from the heart, from the spirit, you do the right thing. And if there is a reward, there is a reward. If there is no reward, there is no reward. And sometimes the rewards are in a different way that you expect to be. So be aware of that. Let's go to the conclusion because the time is up. Conclusion says, if in life we tend to compare with each other and measure our own success according to what success means for others. That should not be the case. The greatest success in life, according to Paul, is to do what is right, not because of rewards, but because of the Spirit. Because we love each other, because we are followers of Jesus. And let's pray. Lord, help me to understand that, and you can mention an achievement in your mind. Doesn't have to be others. Help me to do your work, not for the reward, but for the pleasure of serving you as your follower. Amen. God bless you.